Kia ora, welcome to the channel. Today we will be reviewing the Mungyo watercolour palette. I bought this about like a month or three ago and I have used it. I like reviewing products that I have used before the review just so I can give like a long-term review. So it's Mungyo. They claim to be professional watercolours over here. So it says professional watercolour. They are not. I bought it for 40 New Zealand dollars. And for 40 New Zealand dollars you cannot buy any professional palette for that much money. Much more it costs. So it has 12 colours. I'll go through them with you. And I'll swatch them out as well. So if we open it up, the colours we have is white, black, we have like a light red, they say. It's more of an English red. It's very opaque. And then we also have a yellow ochre, pale, yellow green, sorry, viridium, cerulean blue. I don't know why this is called cerulean blue. It is clearly like a phthalo blue, but that's okay. We'll swatch them out so you can see the colours. We also have cobalt blue, permanent violet. It's a purple dioxide. I guess just different names for different things. We also have a permanent red, a orange, and a yellow. The names are a bit confusing, but that's okay. It also says down the bottom here, it says superb light fastness. These are not light fast by any means, but that doesn't mean these are bad. They just are good student grade paints. The palette itself, it stains very easily. I don't know if it shows up on camera here, but there's a lot of staining. I've tried very hard to rub it off and it just doesn't come off. Oh, did that work? Maybe a little bit, but it is very easy to stain, which is why I don't tend to use the palette itself too much. Anyway, I'll get on to swatching it. So I did a quick swatch of them. I prefer doing swatches off camera just so I can concentrate and get like a right consistency going on. I used very, very little paint for these swatches and they're very vibrant. So I've already pre-wet them with a spray bottle, so it's much easier to reactivate. If you grab too much, you have to like granulate it a little bit. It like comes off very chunky, and that is if you don't properly mix it up a little bit. You can see on these swatches I did a while ago that they're very opaque, but there's texture to it, especially the cerulean blue and the yellow over here. So the way to solve that is just mix it up a bit and not grab so much pigment. If you're on a big pigment load, I'd say mix it up on the palette and it will remove that kind of texture to the watercolour. The watercolours, I personally enjoyed them, like spreading them out and stuff. The only one that I already knew wasn't the greatest is the cobalt blue. For some reason it's very hard to activate and compared to the others anyway. And you can kind of see that in the swatch. It's much more lighter and less pigmented than the others. It's not saying it's a bad colour, it's just an observation and an interesting one at that. This is the white. It's still drying a little bit, but yeah, it's still drying, but it's kind of, if you see on the edge, it's not that opaque on the white. And also in the swatch over here I did a while ago, it's not the most pigmented white. I'd say it's more of a Chinese white than a titanium white. Before I move on to creating a piece with this, I will show you the swatches, some examples of work I've done with this over the last like month. So I did this back in April, so it's A4. It's yeah, it's kind of got a hazy effect to it if you use too much of the pigment. So that's just something to be aware of. And some other ones I've done, it's kind of got that same effect. It dries this isn't professional like watercolor paper, but it's still got that kind of hazy effect. If you hear any scratching or knocking on the cupboard, my cat wants to go in the hot water cupboard, and excuse that. Anyway, I'll get on to preparing for the drawing. So I changed the setup a little bit so you could see what I'm doing. I figured out what I'm going to do. Again, I don't have a reference picture. I did a little thumbnail in the corner down here where you can't see. But in reality, it's just like a little landscape of out in the ocean with some trees in the foreground kind of thing. It's honestly nothing that fancy or anything like that. It's just rough sketch, which is what I like to do. Anyway, so the ocean can end right here. That's honestly about it for the sketching. I prefer kind of like quick sketches, especially for a video. I don't want it to be too long, which I have previously said. What colour? This colour. So I'm just using a bit of the Viridian. I don't know if you, I can't really, but if I pick up the pigment, there are like kind of little spots of granulation. I just mix that in a little bit more so it won't end up on the paper. I want it quite dark and quite neutral. So add a bit of black, a bit of blue, and there we have it. Bit of that bluey black. A bit more dark would be nice though. Anyway, I hope these reviews are helpful. I'm still trying to figure out what works and stuff. I've said this before, but you know, you never know. If you have any feedback or any recommendations for palette reviews or anything, just let me know in the comments. It'd be great to know. And if you do enjoy this, give it a thumbs up and stuff. That'd be appreciated. I have also heard from like some other artists that these are similar to the Primo watercolors or something like that. Personally, I haven't actually tried the Primo, so I can't make any statements on that or my own personal like, oh yeah, they're exactly the same formula and stuff. But you know, I'd say check out some reviews and where the factories are made and stuff, so where the paints are actually made, and see if they're the same place or not, if you were that interested. Personally, these work quite fine, and I don't see really anything wrong with it. They can be very opaque of the lining if you use them in thick amounts, which I am, just because the style I paint is a bit, you know, paint down, paint on the palette. Anyway, just a quick little, I think for the sky I'll just do a simple gradient down to the sea, got a bit of cerulean, well, you know, the cerulean blue they say. Flick it across the sky here, and a little gradient down. I could do a cloud. I'll just grab a tissue and pick up some paint. So how I like to do clouds is put down the paint first, grab a tissue, like pick it up a little bit, because it creates like a nice cloud shape. And then with that, purple, the black, and a bit of the cobalt, make a nice shadow to it. Very light one though, so a light wash of that, although it's quite flowy at the moment. Like at the bottom of the cloud, a little bit at the top. And since it's quite flowy with the water, just put it down in light layers. And then a bit of yellow at the top of the clouds. Like so. And then kind of like blend them together a little bit. and a bit more pigment at the bottom of the clouds there. A little bit there. And then for the water, I use a bit of the cobalt, bit of cerulean, a touch of brown, like barely any brown, and then that makes a nice kind of watery colour right there. And it'll be darker further out, so I'll add a bit more cerulean as I come closer. That's a bit too much cerulean, but I can always add more colour. Just lightly wash that out. And blend them together a little bit. I'm adding a bit more cobalt and a bit more of the brown together to kind of darken the end of it. And then here we have it. Actually, I'm gonna put that a little bit further down there. Get rid of a bit of that brown. The more you look at it, the more it's like, oh, actually I could do this, but I feel that the more I do right now, the more I'll just work on it until I work to the bone. Anyway, this is the finished product. This is the finished piece. It's just a little landscape with it. Overall, the colours are alright. I prefer Winsor & Newton Cotman because they aren't as opaque, but these are also pretty good watercolours if they're more available to you. For student grade, they are definitely not professional watercolour, and I also am not a big fan of the colour selection, especially if you're just starting out. I'd recommend a palette without a white and maybe even a black if you want to learn colour theory, but if you're still like, oh, I don't really want to learn colour theory at the moment, I just want to see if I like the medium, and go for it. I don't like the brown in it though. It's not quite the right brown to mix some nice neutral colours with the cobalt, and also the orange I don't think is necessary. There are also two greens, and this yellow green is much more opaque. Most of these colours are quite opaque, so I wouldn't see on the line work it's quite hazy now because of how opaque these colours are. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that because I use a lot of line work in my work. It doesn't work well for me. But yeah, I hope this review was helpful, and let me know in the comments if there are any products you want me to review. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.